Hi everybody, my name is Alison Rue and this is What is Critical Race Theory. Critical race theory is an intellectual and social framework that examines how race as a socially constructed idea rather than a biological fact has been used within laws and institutions to create and maintain inequality for people of color. Critical race theorists believe racism isn't just about individual prejudice, but can also be built into laws and institutions in the United States. From this view, the legal system can sometimes work in ways that continue to create unfair differences between white people and people of color, especially African Americans, even if that isn't the intention. They also look at how these patterns can show up in different parts of societies like schools, jobs, housing, and the criminal justice system, and how they keep repeating over time. Their goal is to better understand how these systems work so they can help reduce or remove unfair racial inequalities. Critical race theory, or CRT, was officially organized in 1989, but its original ideas go all the way back to the 1960s and 70s. Derek Bell is widely considered the founding father of CRT because of his book Race, Racism, and American Law. CRT originally came from the Critical Legal Studies, or CLS, movement, which argued that law often benefit the wealthy and powerful while disadvantaging the poor and marginalized groups. CLS itself was influenced by earlier legal theories, including legal realism and Marxism ideas, which suggested that court decisions are shaped not only by legal rules but also by social, political, and economic factors. CRT scholars adopted some of these ideas but focused more specifically on race and racial inequality in the United States. Critical race theories argued that even after major civil rights reforms, inequality can persist because of colorblind approaches to the law. They believe these approaches may overlook more indirect or systemic forms of racism that are built into institutions like education, housing, employment, and criminal justice system. CRT also criticized gradual or incremental reform, arguing that it could be too slow and may allow unequal systems to continue or adapt rather than be fully changed. At the same time, unlike some CLS scholars who rejected the usefulness of the law altogether, CRT scholars are generally believe that legal rights and reforms can still play an important role in improving conditions for marginalized groups, even while recognizing the limits of legal systems. Race is considered a social construct rather than a biological fact. Modern genetic research has shown that humans are not divided into distinct biological races. Instead, race is a category created by societies often based on visual traits like skin color or hair. Critical race theories argue that these traits have been linked to assumed behaviors or abilities, and that these ideas were historically used by dominant groups to justify unequal and unequal treatment. CRT also argues that racism is a normal, ongoing part of society rather than something rare or unusual. While explicit racism and laws like segregation have mostly been eliminated, many people of color still experience unequal treatment in everyday life. This can be seen in areas like employment, housing, education, healthcare, and the criminal justice system. For example, people of color may face more difficulty getting jobs or loans, are more likely to live in under-resourced neighborhoods, and often receive lower quality public services such as education and healthcare. Microaggressions are subtle, often unintentional comments or actions that reflect bias or stereotypes about a person's race. These can happen in everyday situations and are often subtle enough that they are easy to overlook or these can happen in everyday situations and are often These can happen in everyday situations and are often subtle enough that they're easy to overlook or dismiss. Even though they may seem small, they can happen frequently and build up over time, leading to frustration, stress, and negative psychological effects for those who experience them. Interest convergence is when progress for people of color often happens only when it benefits those in power. For example, some scholars like Derek Bell argue that the decision in Brown versus Board of Education may be influenced not only by a desire for justice, but also by concerns about the U.S. global image and political stability during the Cold War. Intersectionality, a concept developed by Kimberly Crenshaw, highlights that people have multiple identities, such as race, gender, and class, and that overlap and share their experiences. This means someone may face different forms of discrimination at the same time. Starting in 2021, many states passed laws or policies banning divisive concepts related to race. Some states passed standalone laws, others added provisions into education budgets, and some governors issued executive orders. Even though the laws don't mention critical race theory by name, they instead don't allow the teaching of ideas of U.S.'s races or that people bearing responsibility for past actions based on their race, in which they call these topics anti-American. In response, there have been legal countermeasures challenging these laws. Opponents argue that restrictions violate the First Amendment by limiting free speech and academic freedom, especially for teachers and students. They also argue that some laws are too vague, using unclear terms like divisive concepts, which can lead to confusion and self-censorship in the classrooms. Courts and organizations have pushed back in different ways. Some court rulings have blocked or questioned bans for being too vague or unconstitutional, while academic groups like the Association of American Law Schools have publicly opposed these efforts, arguing they undermine education and open discussion.